Well, new poll results out this morning in the past hour show a majority of Americans, both black and white, share the view that the jury in the Derek Chauvin murder trial reached the right verdict. A new CBS News YouGov poll finds 70% of white people and 93% of black people think it was the right verdict. When broken down by political party, 90% of Democrats and 54% of Republicans think it was the right verdict. Derek Chauvin's sentencing date has now been set for June 16th. He faces a maximum of 40 years in prison. The verdict is the first time a white police officer has been convicted of killing a black person in Minnesota. The impact of the verdict, though, is being felt worldwide and is being hailed as the biggest single civil rights breakthrough and reckoning of a generation. A superstar team of attorneys put together a compelling and moving narrative of George Floyd's murder, a narrative the jury accepted fully, returning 3 guilty verdicts. Leading that prosecution team and ahead of his big 60 Minutes interview, we are honored to have Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison join us right now. Thank you so much for coming on.
Good to be here, Esme.
All right, let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident were you about that verdict coming back the way you had fought for?
I felt it should happen as it did. I thought that would be the proper result, but I wasn't sure until I heard Judge Cahill actually read the verdict. I always knew that there was a possibility that things could go in an unexpected direction.
Okay. There were so many people who doubted this verdict, particularly people of color, and even your own prosecution team. I got to ask you, you kept asking for delays, you filed for COVID extensions, all kinds of things. Why do you think people did have doubts?
Well, the reason that we were filing for delays is because as the person who's supposed to enforce COVID restrictions, I could not be not trying to get people to comply with COVID restrictions. So that was the purpose of that. But the real reason why people had their doubts is because, you know, Breonna Taylor, no action at all. Rodney King, people remember that. The verdict, the jury went to Simi Valley, not guilty, and then there had to be federal action. Walter Scott, more recently. It took 4 years for the Laquan McDonald, the person who shot him, Jason Van Dyke, in Chicago, to be charged. And then even the ones who aided and abetted Van Dyke walked away from that. So there's just been a history of unaccountability, and people were operating on that.
What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard that first guilty verdict and then the next two?
No, surprisingly, I didn't feel any sense of joy at all. I felt relief. I felt that this was the right thing, but I also felt like, I felt a certain sense of humility. I felt I was in gratitude to the jury, to all the witnesses, those people who stepped up on that fateful day on May 25th and said what they thought was wrong. None of them knew George Floyd. All of them came to testify, and I felt really grateful to them because, nobody wants to, there's a lot of people who don't want to be all over the news, right? And they wanted their privacy, and yet they stepped up and told the truth.
You put together a prosecution team of real superstars. Steve Slisher was the man who prosecuted the murderer of Jacob Wetterling. Jerry Blackwell, he was a civil attorney. He's never done a criminal case before. The whole team, all of them together, but those two were just incredible, and they did this pro bono.
That's right.
You asked them to do it. I mean,
yeah,
that's a remarkable skill, Mr. Ellison.
Well, I knew we needed to have a team that could do it, and Steve and Jerry were phenomenal. There's no doubt. Very grateful to them. They're two lawyers who've done well because they're good at what they do, but they also know that there's more to this life than making money. There's more to being a lawyer than just making money. You got to do good in society, and they take that seriously. But also my own staff, Matt Frank, phenomenal job. Took some tough witnesses, did a great job. Aaron Eldridge. We had 2 young staffers at my office, Zuri Balkaman and Natasha Robinson, who didn't stand up in court. But what they did do is they drafted outlines for direct and cross-examinations, research. And then Lola Velasquez, a wonderful lawyer who did not testify, but really worked up our medical case and did a great job.
And I might add too, you were there every single day in the courtroom.
Yeah.
A lot of people may not have seen that on that wider shot. One of the things that a lot of people have questions about or were worried about going into this is TV You, sir, and your office was against television in the
Right.
cameras, and from what I have heard, everybody I have talked to has said they are so grateful that they were able to see this. Has your view of cameras in the courtroom changed?
Yeah, things went better than I thought they were going to. I thought it would alter the way the lawyers handled the case and handled the evidence, but it went pretty well. I was very grateful that Judge Cahill allowed the juvenile witnesses to not be on camera. That was important to me, and I was worried that folks wouldn't want to show up if they thought they were going to have their privacy just obliterated by being on international television.
Now, I know one of the pool reporters heard you on the Thursday before the verdict came. They took the Friday off, and then they had closing arguments on Monday. They heard you say that you wished it could have gone right to the jury on Friday. You didn't want to wait 3 days because of all that happened. Is that why?
Well, I was worried about people getting COVID. I was worried about civil unrest. I was worried about people getting sick. I didn't want to lose this jury, which I think was a wonderful jury and a very, very thoughtful, diverse jury. And so I just worried that time might not work in our favor. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to get moving.
When you first heard about the Daunte Wright case happening in the middle of this, what went through your mind? Heartbreak
for that family, 17-year-old kid, lost forever. His father will never, he was a father of 20. His child won't grow up with his dad.
He's a 20-year-old who has a young child.
He has a young child. His parents, lovely people, lost their son, and so that I was really hit by that.
Okay, were you concerned? You had to be, that this would derail the case.
Yeah, I was, but this jury took their direction seriously, and the judge said, "Stay away from the media." So they did, and they kept their focus on their task at hand and followed the instructions of the court. So I think it worked out.
One of the things that people are saying is there are many people in the community who would like you to prosecute that case, the Daunte Wright case. What do you have to say to that? Kimberly Potter case, actually.
Yeah, well, let me say, Pete Orput is an excellent prosecutor. The case is in his hands, and I ask people to trust him and give him a chance.
Okay. A lot of talk about appeals, a lot of talk about some comments that were made by somebody you know and served with in Congress, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, about getting more confrontational. Is that going to, the judge kind of gave it a nod and said, hey, that could lead to something being overturned. What is your opinion?
I doubt that. Look, we have a First Amendment, freedom of expression. Maxine Waters she has a record of protest and of demonstration and standing up for social justice issues, and she's just being the same person she's always been. I think the jury knew not to be influenced by anything except for what evidence came through the witness stand. So I just think that it's one of those things that happened. I never thought it was going to actually influence the jury, but it is one of those things we had to deal with in the course of the case.
And you've got another trial. The 3 other officers, former officers that were involved, all stand trial together in August. I got to tell you, their names did not come up a lot in the testimony, relatively speaking.
Well, they are presumed innocent. They have a right to a trial. And I want to make sure that I don't say anything that might in any way influence any jurors. They are presumed innocent, and we will handle that in due course.
In terms of what is next, obviously you've got this upcoming trial, you've got the sentencing. Will you weigh in on the sentencing? I know you've already asked for an upward departure because of aggravating factors. There were children present, particular cruelty, the abuse of power. Do you have a specific number that you're going to ask the judge for?
Nothing that I'm in a position to disclose now. The guideline sentence is 150 months.
Which is 12 and a half years.
Yeah, that's the guideline sentence. Even though the statutory maximum is 40, that's rare, or maybe it never happens.
Yeah.
And so that's the guideline sentence. We don't seek revenge. We don't seek anything. We just seek a fair sentence, and we'll make our arguments to the court.
Okay. And in terms of what happens next, you walked in here with Senator Bobby Joe Champion.
Oh, yeah.
And the first thing you said is, hey, I've got a story for you. They're pushing police reform at the Minnesota Senate. Not taking anything about, your case or the glory, but looking at that. Realistically, how badly is that reform needed, do you think? They did just pass a reform bill a few months ago, or last June, rather.
Well, these issues of police-community relations having a very negative effect on society, causing civil unrest, go back to the year 1919 in Chicago. That was the first, police-community conflagration that results in a report and a commission and people studying this issue, and it goes to 1935 in Harlem, 1943, then Detroit, Watts, all that. There is a long history of this, and you're not going to solve it just by one suite of bills, one session. This is a social transformation that has to happen. And as glad as I am of the outcome of our case, it's just one case. We need legislators in Congress and in the state legislature and in our city council level to continue the process of reform to make sure that the relationship between the citizen and the police department is a good one, a trusting one, and a one that's mutually beneficial.
Have you been able to take stock of your role in history? This will be remembered for generations. It's already being viewed as a seminal case. You led it. You led the prosecution. Your thoughts?
I haven't really weighed that yet. I don't really know. I mean, I just did what I thought was responsible for me to do. When the governor and Mike Freeman said, hey, look, can you be involved? I said yes, because I thought it was important to help. If you can help, you should help. And I stepped up to help, and we did the best we could. And I guess I'll think more about it historically in the days to come.
All right. Well, Keith Ellison, Attorney General, congratulations, and watch 60 Minutes for the full interview with Scott Pelley tonight. Thank you so much for coming in, and really a remarkable job. And again, there were a lot of people who did not think, including many who were out there celebrating, did not think that you'd be able to pull this off.